Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Team Down TV's coverage of the Cyber Gamer League of Legends Oceanic Open Ladder Tournament number 2. And we are here into round 3 of our lower bracket. Obviously, we saw round 2 earlier on in the piece. And as is round 3, believe it or not, 2 comes after 3 now. We've got our teams here, Sea Salt and Vinegar going up against Crowd Control Gaming Devine. Sea Salt and Vinegar actually dropped a game against Team 4, not in round 2, so this is them now coming up and fighting for their spot in round 4 of the losers bracket. The winner of this one will go up against Villains, so no simple task by any stretch of the imagination. But let's not look too far ahead now, as this is the match. Of course, on the blue side, it's going to be Team Crowd Control Gaming Devine. On the right, it's going to be Sea Salt and Vinegar with a little adjustment here. Lord Fabulous gone missing. It's Youngie in the mid lane, Rusty.
Yeah, Youngie's actually quite an underrated player, I would call him. He's always been around, actually. He's just never been in a big team that's like been solid roster for a long time. But he's always been here and there, everywhere. He's a solid player. He doesn't play super aggressive or anything. Like, he hasn't made a name for a cheese champion, but he plays everything. He plays it well, and he'll fit into a team like theirs, like with Teals, with Sora. They're all long-standing. They're able to play competitive. They've been playing for a while. They're good teamwork. He'll fit in perfectly.
Okay, well, let's see how it goes. Of course, tough times for Lord Fabulous and the rest of Sea Salt and Vinegar. In their last match that we saw, he got essentially crushed in that mid lane as he tried to sort of just hold on there. I think it was actually a little cutie cheese just wrecked him pretty much for the entirety of the game, as well, with a lot of good ganks, of course, from Impaired that just made life a little bit hard for him now. So let's see what happens here. Of course, Sarah G and Teals were the shining light in that last game for Sea Salt and Vinegar. They were very strong, and they definitely kept their team in it. Let's see, though, if the rest of Sea Salt and Vinegar can pull up their socks and do some real work there. Sora struggled. I think he picked a Jax into Irelia, actually, and got kind of mashed by... actually, it was a solo queue player, I think, that was playing in Impaired's team at the time. But anyway, Pixie Bed's coming out. Scion being banned away, okay. Nara and Irelia also being banned, so a lot of top lane focus here as well for Sora. Maybe to give him a little bit of an easier time in that lane. LeBlanc, Lissandra, and Pantheon being banned away as well by CCG Devine.
Yeah, the Scion ban is something that strikes me as a little bit different. I'm not sure if someone from CCG Devine has a history of playing Scion, or there's a particular purpose for it. There must be, but yeah, that doesn't strike me as ban-worthy regardless. And I mean, the Nara and the Aurelia are both very strong champions. They're targeting the top laner. I believe it's Bad Game LOL. Plays a lot of Aurelia, I think. Lissandra banned, get rid of that from X-Sora. A lot of strong top champions have been banned. And I'm interested to see what actually gets picked as the top lanes. Right now, it's both being picked as their last picks, I think. So there might not be that many left.
Well, you're right. And I mean, it's going to be Sora will have the potential to counterpick that one as well. Obviously, I mean, last game I think he had the pick opportunity as well, and he just sort of got bested in lane. So not really much more you can really add to that little description of the situation. It wasn't an ideal matchup for him at all, at least the way that the lane played out. We'll have to wait and see what the rest are. Look, it might be a Vayne here now. Sarah G last time actually played Vayne and had quite a level of success here. Teals on Thresh is no surprise to me. I think he's done that quite a few times before. Definitely favours that champion here. But an Ezreal pick, what does that imply, do you think, when a team goes for that one at this point?
But an Ezreal doesn't imply a whole lot. He's a very versatile champion. He can do a lot of things. The Rengar implies that they're going to make picks. The Orianna is very team fight based, and the Thresh can do everything as well. So right now their team fight, or their team comp, is very generic. It's very does everything. There's no one goal of that team. Like, they're not looking to poke, they're not looking to AoE team fight. It's just, it does everything, and it does it all reasonably well. I don't think Ezreal does a lot of damage. I think he has to scale a bit before he starts to do damage. And I mean, if they do pick up Vayne here, I actually don't mind the Vayne into the Ezreal matchup. All you have to do is dodge the Qs, and it's fairly easy to do. You have a tumble, and like, you start to scale. So looking at a champion like Ezreal that you want to sort of scale with items against a champion like a Vayne, which scales extremely hard with items, I feel like it's a really good decision here from CCG Devine to pick that up. Now, they've got the Janna to help sustain the Vayne through the lane. I'm not really worried about the Ezreal poke in that lane, mostly the Thresh hooks. And an interesting pickup here, just quietly, is the Poppy top lane.
Well, I mean, we saw MacNoon play that one last time. We saw his team sort of under the spotlight there, and suffice to say, it went quite well. And I actually remember a while back. I don't know who. I don't know if it was Ghost Crawl or maybe Morello. I made the comment that Poppy wasn't really going to be looked at in any sort of great depth until that she saw like the lighter competitive play a bit more. So she's still the same Poppy that she has been for a long time. And you could see what Mark Noon was able to do with that champion when he played it in the LCS, or I think it was qualifiers or something similar for Fusion. Let's see what Sora can do now. I mean, like the Maokai was already revealed. It was for Sora to sort of pick a champion into that one. Do you have any idea what that matchup looks like?
The champion, like, from my limited experience of Poppy, she's an extremely good sustaining champion in lane. Like, she doesn't have any innate sustain, she just has increased armor, I believe, from her W, which is a move speed buff when activated. Other than that, most of the sustain comes from her passive, I believe, which is like reduced damage dealt to her from all sources. And I mean, like, that combined with runes, you just go flat runes, gets you through laning phase perfectly fine. Against a Maokai, he doesn't have substantial amounts of damage, and it'd be really hard to push a Poppy out without running out of mana extremely quickly. So, I mean, it doesn't seem like too bad of a matchup, in my opinion. It's just an unusual pick. And I mean, we saw Unicorns I Love play it as well in the IEM Cologne, and it did extremely well there. It had a high impact in the game, and I hope to see the same thing here. It has a high impact.
Well, that's the thing about Poppy is that, as you said, like all of like physical or magic damage dealt to her that exceeds 10% of her current health is cut in half. So, with the exception of towers and that kind of thing. So, any sort of burst or anything that's like hitting her hard, like the impact of that damage is reduced significantly. It's sustained damage that obviously Poppy has a little bit more trouble dealing with. But I mean, in a matchup dealing with things like Zed and that kind of thing where there is burst damage potential, it's hard to just break Poppy down. And of course, her ultimate ability as well, which we haven't really touched on, of course, the Diplomatic Immunity, makes it so only one sort of champion can actually do damage to her. And for the duration of that one, you just, I don't know, old Janna, per se, in a fight, and then just have so much freedom to do damage and knock people around and have an impact. So, look, lane is important here, as always, of course. Sora needs to really hit his stride in that lane, come out on top, and be able to have that big impact. Because if you look at the team right now of these guys, what was it? It's Salt and Vinegar. Sea Salt and Vinegar. Sorry. There's not huge amounts of tankiness on their team. I mean, Rengar, no, not really. I mean, he's especially at the moment. There was a time where tank Rengar was a thing. Now Rengar is always going to be that sort of middle of the road, very much a bruiser style jungler. So, will Sora go defensive? Will it be a Triforce? Who knows? I mean, but you gotta be thinking ahead with this kind of team composition, especially when you go into a team that already has the Maokai tank and the Jarvan bruiser aspect to it.
Yeah, I think, okay, so I was just thinking about this while you were talking. The Zed pick is like perfect for Poppy because Zed wants to split once he gets items or to get items, and I don't really see a situation where a Zed can kill a Poppy like at all. Like I just don't see that happening. And I mean, Poppy can split push, she has the teleport, and Maokai's going to end up grouping at some stage of the game where a Zed's going to split push. And that's an ideal situation for a Poppy to either 1v1 kill the Zed or to be useful late game just by teleporting in. And I feel like she'll be able to control the lane that Zed is in. And this will work really well for Sea Salt and Vinegar when it comes to the mid-late game team fighting stage.
Well, I mean, and the question remains is going to be getting herself into a capacity where she can split push, because obviously Diplomatic Immunity is useless against in a 1v1 situation, right? So the rest of her kit obviously is going to be helping and mitigate some of the high amounts of damage that Zed does, especially with his passive that makes him hit that much harder when your opponent is low. Those clutch fights might be happening, but yeah, you're exactly right. Can Sora though get to that point? There's always the time where you're like, can I split push, right? So your decision-making flowchart looks something like, can I 1v1 anyone on their team? If that's yes, you can split push. Like that's really the story. It's can you distract enough attention from the enemy team, make them invest heavily in sort of shifting you away from that split push role, and then you can do that. Poppy and Zed, I mean, this is, again, another game where some uncharted territory comes up for casters like myself and Rusty, because, I mean, just like last game, some of those picks were, unconventional. And now we have to, exercise our ability of conjecture and just make some assumptions. And we'll have to wait and see how these lanes go. And that's always the caveat here, ladies and gentlemen, of course, is, Namja, how can he be impacting these lanes effectively? Jarvan's been super popular lately and probably one of the biggest champions to benefit from the jungle changes. And we'll be looking to see how Soulstrike can really get around the map and make his presence felt with those early ganks.
Yeah, and I'm yet to see Rengar in the new jungle, personally. It's a champion, he does have a fair bit of sustain, he has a fair bit of damage, and with the new jungle, he's always wanted to farm, and it'll probably get him a little bit of a quicker 6, I think, in the new jungle if he does it effectively and doesn't either get invaded or have to be a part of a gank, and Rengar at 6 is extremely scary, so I look forward to seeing Jarvan probably ganking around level 3, 4, trying to cement his own lead, but Rengar will probably look to either counter gank or gank at 6 when he hits that massive, not necessarily power spike, but utility spike where he can come in invisible and a gank will be successful because they can't see him coming.
Well, that's generally a good start. You're going to be making a gank there, coming in under the cloak of shadows here. We are on the red side, of course. It's going to be Team Seasalt and Vinegar. Blue side, Crowd Control Gaming Devine. Now, to be fair, Seasalt and Vinegar are probably one of the more favoured teams in this situation. I'm surprised they're on the red side, actually, given the way that this bracket works, but we'll ignore that. They obviously did go down to 4-0 in their match. So that was, I think, a second round match that gives them a third round lower bracket berth. So that's the situation here right now for them. And you can see both teams pretty much just fanning out over both sides of the map. A line of scrimmage being drawn here. Neither team really going for very deep wards either, so a lot of tentativeness about this early stage of the game.
Yeah, you're right. Like, everyone's fanned out. It's all in a situation where no one's going to die, and if someone invades, they'll be able to see it coming, except for the exception of Janna and Vayne right now, who are just doing their thing. You usually tend to see wards come out around 1 minute to 1:30, just so that, like, because the trinket ward lasts a minute, and if you ward too early, you may not see a late invade. If you don't see the late invade, you've invested all your time into hitting a buff and not securing vision around it, you're going to die. So you save your ward for as late as possible, where you're not going to be in a dangerous position, and then you go do it. And around 1 minute is the ideal time, especially as a laner, because your ward will be back around 3-4 minutes or so, when the junglers tend to want to gank at about level 4 after having recall with items.
Yeah, and crucially enough as well, that ward timeout at 2 minutes if you place it down. So you get that little bit of vision 5 seconds after that buff is spawned. So you have a bit of an idea for teams trying to preemptively position themselves to try and take that away or harass. Now, here we go. Help on towards the Cruise here. So it's not a solo take for Kulo and Strawberry. So won't be an early level 2 for them. Well, no earlier than their opponents, Sarah G and Teals in this case. So no shenanigans. I mean, it is a Vayne sort of channel lane, but often you see those teams, those combos push for level 2 first to deal with the threat, like just so the opponents don't have level 2 first. And we know that Thresh has ability to make some plays there at that point. Ezreal not so much, obviously lacking any form of CC at all. But we'll have to wait and see now as Sarah G and Kulo will be the ones that are piling this lane essentially as the AD carries, and Teals wants to go for a bit of an early flay, actually forcing an unnecessary tumble back there from Kulo. And both these guys, both these combinations, I think, sort of got a good feel for where they're at. I think, is Sarah Smiley Face X? Have I been calling him the wrong name the whole time?
I'm not entirely sure, but I'm assuming so, yeah.
I think he is. Nonetheless, the hook on towards Kulo was good. The flay to follow up is forced to heal, and the exhaust out from Strawberry as well. Sarah G will go for a cheeky little mystic shot there, but won't actually connect. Nonetheless, definitely a good trade, and that was a level 2 being hit first. This is what I'm saying. This is real stuff I'm talking about here. This are real stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, it's not, but you know what I mean. That level 2 is super important, and we know Sarah G and Teals are going to be wanting to make most use of it.
Yeah, and I mean, bot lane, since I think the start of last season, has generally been the team that hits level 2 first is the team that controls the lane unless a mistake happens. So you see that Smiley Face and Teals both hit level 2 first. Their champions are good for hitting level 2, and they're against the Vayne. They're going to try and push that in, and it worked out perfectly for them. So now they've got control of the entire lane just because they hit level 2 first. And I don't think they've got a particular champion pool in bot lane where they could do the golems by themselves. Doing the golems actually gets you pretty low, and being a Vayne coming to a lane, you may be level 2, but you're going to be low, and that's not a risk you want to take. Anyway, I mean, they're still low now, so what am I even saying?
Well, it's much the same. And let's see who makes the mistake here first, I guess, in the bot lane. So Sarah G is a sub. Smiley Face actually left the team. So there's the flash force from Youngie, and that's fair enough. The flag drag coming in from Jarvan, especially with the threat of Zed hanging over your head. It's just not really worth dealing with. Now, Teal's actually getting a lot of work down towards Kulo. He just hasn't had any time to lane at all. A lot of pressure coming out here from the Sarah and Teal's combination. Wasn't even a death sentence used there, I'm not actually sure, but you can see Teals is really on point right now, and he's literally given control of that lane over to that Ezreal. And as you said, Ezreal, not a huge amount of damage early on. He will scale, as will Kulo, And the AD carry that gets off to a better start is going to be the one that scales a little bit better or a little bit quicker, which is probably very, very important now with the importance of Dragons coming out. Now, Sora and Bad Game Lol haven't really touched on those at all, despite our interest in that Poppy top lane. I mean, in that short trade, looked like it went in favour of Sora. I mean, Farm is fairly even Stevens at this point. We know that Sora's got a bit to prove, I think, after the last game we saw from him. It wasn't impressive by any stretch, and definitely wants to make a bit of an impact in this game with that pick.
Yeah, and Poppy scales fantastically well, so for him to be doing as well as he is right now in the early laning phase, it's going to speak volumes for how relevant he will be in the mid to late game. So if he continues the path that he's on right now, I only see good things in the future for this Poppy pick.
Oh, there we go. The hook actually goes to a Strawberry, not Kulo, as was first intended, but plenty of damage to be done there as well. And even after Soul Strike's actually reconsidering the wisdom of him even bothering to gank, he actually got spotted out by a ward as well. So he'll head back with vision of him going over to the entirety of Sea Salt and Vinegar, and they can make an informed decision on their next move.
Yeah, Jarvan hasn't actually been able to make a big impact at all. Everywhere he's attempted to gank, I believe he got a flash out of the Orianna, but nothing's come from that. Generally, when you blow a flash, you want to return to that lane and put yourself like, they don't have a flash now, we can kill them much more easily and invest a lot more into the actual kill, which hasn't really happened. I saw Rengar's been sitting mid quite a bit, actually. I'm not sure if it's attempting to counter gank the Jarvan, who you would assume will come back now that you don't have flash, or if it's to kill the Zed, who seems to be playing very aggressively on the Orianna here. But nothing's actually coming from it whatsoever. Zed just hitting 6 and Rengar ganking.
Okay, well, let's see how that works out from there. You can see Rengar's actually spent a lot of time even on the blue buff side of CCG Devine's jungle side. I don't know if he took that away, but he's definitely been very active in moving on both sides of the map. Sora actually got a little bit low, losing the sustain battle here. I mean, as you said, front-loaded damage she can mitigate, but sustain is not superb there for that Poppy. She does have level 6 though, so there's that. Not that it makes a huge difference in a 1v1 scenario, but still definitely something to be considering. Also, of course, level 6 being hit by a few champions around the map. Youngie, Zephyr, and Bad Game all have hit that milestone as well, so we may see some big plays being made a little bit later on in the piece now. And despite sort of being crashed a little bit early on, Kulo has managed to keep up in farm, and it's always a worrying thing when you let a Vayne keep up in farm. Even if they don't necessarily win the lane, you know they're going to be quite devastating later on in the piece.
Yeah, and I feel like basically they did everything they could, Sea Salt and Vinegar, to stop that Vayne from farming. And he still managed to get all of this farm. He was playing with death there. He was messing around, no health for so long, and still managed to come back to lane, full HP, very close to the same amount of farm. So it's really well done by him to ensure that he managed to stay in this lane and in the game.
Okay, now Soul Strike's caught inside the Dragon Pit. We're flag and drag away from that one, but he definitely was spotted out here as well. So, I mean, Soul Strike's struggling a little bit here. Definitely hasn't been able to make any sort of big impacts in those lanes. It's not for lack of trying, but also being spotted out there near the Dragon as well. It's going to give a bit of information over additionally. Now, Sora having to dash away from that sapling, also going to knock into its Bad Game. The Death Sentence is going to miss, and that's a knock up as well. It was a decent Howling Gale as well from Strawberry, but a little bit preemptive there now. Sarah G's got the health to come forward. Great flash play from Teals, but it won't be enough to secure the kill, at least at this stage. It's another resource from Strawberry now. Strawberry just needs to eat one more Mystic shot. And there's a very dead Janna. It was a flash to gain position there as well. Sarah G just trying to go a bit deep. Teal's super low now, having to force that heal as well. And this is when Soul Strikes may have an opportunity to come in and gain. He was probably spotted out by a ward there. He comes forward. He flashed onto that one as well. Bad Game Lol came down as well with the teleport and secures that kill. First blood going over towards CCG Devine and possibly a dragon take here as well.
Yeah, they look to take this dragon now. They've got 4 people alive, but the Vayne and the Janna both at the moment are not rotating, so this is going to be an extremely slow dragon. They may look to contest this just based off that fact alone.
Well,
I mean, that was... yeah.
Well, Zephyrus gets there, though. He does have the ult as well, so there's always a threat. That was a steal away from Best Namja. Just quietly, just walked up casually and stole it away from Ignite. That's got to be frustrating. It's a bit of silver lining as well for Sea Salt and Vinegar after losing that little skirmish in the bottom lane now. And, well, that's a bit of a pain. Especially having that stolen right from under your nose. And as you said, slow dragon. The smite, I don't know if it was missed or not from Soul Strikes, but did not work out. Now Zephyrus might be a little bit caught here, having to back away. Youngie and Nam to chasing on. Shockwave going to be flashed out of. And that's probably a worthwhile trade if you're that Orianna.
Yeah, it was actually very clever by the Orianna there. Zed used his shadow to deal damage and slow the Orianna. Mostly just to secure a positive trade, but the second the Orianna overextended and continued to push, Zed knew something was up. Now, he's going to continue to run away, or he could go back to his shadow, depending on how Orianna reacted in that situation. She chose to hold off on her ult until the shadow ended, forcing a flash. So it was a really smart decision there by Yo-Yo Youngin, and very well played.
Okay, now a lot of harassment towards Zephyrix, and yes, no shockwave as we said available, but still well and truly enough to probably make Zed back away from that tower as well. Youngie getting free reign of that lane at this stage. It's not a huge CS lead. Double Fairy Charm might I just add as well on Youngie, so definitely plenty of sustain for him with that Doran's ring as well. And look, all over the map, CS is relatively similar. I mean, Sarah G definitely got that early advantage now, is converting that into a little bit more money. Pickaxe, and of course, Tear of the Goddess being picked up for that Ezreal, so another blue build.
Yeah, the blue build Ezreal, I'm a fan of it, but it's one of those builds where you feel like it just doesn't do that much damage until you get the Muramana upgrade from the Manamune. And I mean, against a team like with a Vayne, I don't know if there's a mid-game solution to the Ezreal pick, or if he's just going to commit to the tier and probably get the Manamune first so it scales quicker to compensate. But both teams scaling right now, not a lot happening in lanes besides farming. It's expected, to be perfectly honest, just because they both scale so well.
Okay, now Sora does have the Sheen in hand, looking at the Phage next item, but hasn't really done the Poppy thing as much as we thought he would yet. There's the good knock away there towards Namtu as he tries to jump in on towards Kulo. He will be able to get away from that one as well. Sora being forced to use his charge to, again, avoid a sapling thrown down by Bad Game Lowell. Now being just shoved right under his own tower, so his lane again, I mean, you know, he's still in it. I mean, it's a kill over towards Bad Game Lowell, so that Rod of Ages isn't too far away, but so far not too bad from the Poppy pick, but we're just yet to see it come to its own, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, Poppy, one of those champions, can sit in lane with 200 health and still not be dove just because the passive is ridiculous. And, I mean, he's getting pushed out of lane right now. He's behind 3 CS. He's going to get denied probably another wave. But it's still not a big deal. It's still going to be a scary Poppy coming into the mid-game. He's still got that 70 uncontested farm prior to this even happening. The Vayne in the bot lane, 73 to 84 CS. As we see a fight in the mid.
Youngie getting jumped on there. Death Mark goes down. Cataclysm as well. That's a little bit much to get away from. Youngie still managed to pick up Zephyrix in that engagement with the shockwave being used. Just the last moment to hold them both under the tower, and Soul Strikes went very low as well. And that is the power of Orianna right there. A 1-for-1 trade in mid.
Yeah, Orianna managing to actually hit the ult was not sure if it was well played by Youngie or a misplay by the Zed, who still managed to go back to his shadow after the ult hit. I would say it was slightly slow in the reactions on Zed's part there, but still very well played by Youngie to secure the ult, which would have at least hit the Jarvan.
Okay, well, it's a 2-1 in terms of kills here, and that first dragon, obviously, bearing in mind, stolen away by Best Namja in the hands of Seasalt and Vinegar at this stage. And Youngie doing well, holding his own in that mid lane, should I say. And that Rengar-Orianna combination, as we start to get towards the late game, is going to be absolutely devastating if they can put the pieces of the puzzle together correctly. That's always, I guess, a caveat as you're playing League of Legends, especially with a team comp that requires a small amount of coordination. Well, we look forward to see if that works out, though. That is for sure. Now, again, Sora, bad game. They're going head-to-head. And, yeah, only the Poppy pick, we're definitely looking towards team fights and when there are other players around, at least someone to use diplomatic immunity on at least. So I wouldn't be stressing too much about that at this stage. It's definitely not a pick for lane, I don't think.
No, it's not a pick for lane as such. It's a pick because you know you can get through the laning phase. It's just one of those champions where you don't counter pick a lane as Poppy. You pick Poppy because you want to win a team fight stage once you get your Trinity Force. And right now you can see Maokai's got his Rod of Ages, whereas the Poppy's just got the Sheen. Not spiking as hard as the Maokai right now. That's why it's indicative of the lane going towards the Maokai's favour. Maokai building tank though. Bit of damage is going to be able to tank afterwards, whereas the Poppy's just going to do raw damage from start to finish.
Soul Strike's getting cheeky. They're trying to take away the blue buff there as well. Forcing a TP, if I'm not mistaken. The Soul Strike's going towards Youngie. That's a double shockwave there. Zephyr's getting caught for a hook straight away. Had no chance to do anything now using the Death Mark. Right as he dies, and Namja will drop down. There was good work from Soul Strike to follow up on that one. Now Kulo have to jump, dash, dodge, dock, dive, and dip around Teals as he tries to come forward and hook him up there. But it's a flash away from Soul Strike. The flash from Teals though. The flash plays from Teals have been so on point in this game. Strawberry having to back away, so does Kulo as well. Dragging up in 35 seconds. That team fight went 2-for-1.
And while that looked like it was a mistake on Orianna's part to get caught there, the bigger mistake was actually the Jarvan. Now he cataclysmed on top of Youngie, but the arena was so large that Zed was not in range to ult for the duration of the entire thing. Orianna got an ult off on the Zed to stop him from getting close, but there was no way to actually follow up on that engage just because the walls were so wide that no one could get close enough to help damage Youngie. So it worked out quite well in the favour of Sea Salt Vinegar there, and they ended up cleaning up extremely well with a nice flash flay from Seals.
Yeah, I think Zephyrix just had to use his ult, like, because he had no other choice at that stage. He was stunned up for so long. He got shockwaved straight into a death sentence landed by Teals there. That Thresh huge in that team fight. And then he put it on Namja. Namja got knocked up against the wall, and I mean, there's not much you can do about that. Rengar isn't tanky at this stage, so that was a good fight there. Dragon's live now, so it's a little bit mistimed here because, I mean, the teleport isn't available for bad game lol at this stage. I think he used it to try and get down into the fight, or maybe cancel it or something similar. Sora is massively low though, so if the guys from CCG try to take Dragon away right now, Sora needs to get back to base immediately, like absolutely immediately. Now Shockwave is available yet again for Youngie. Sora won't be too far from the fight. Scuttlecrab though did go over to CCG Devine, but as we've said, it's not the be-all and end-all, especially if a team manages to shunt themselves right on top of where that Dragon is, and it looks like it might be an attempt here for Sea Salt and Vinegar. No, they're not taking it away, I'm not sure. The turret going down the top lane though as well, and you can see now CCG Devine cleverly pulling away the entirety of Sea Salt and Vinegar to try and take that mid tower. They'll back away from that one now. Rengar gets on Strawberry. Strawberry comes for a little bit too much. The exhaust goes down though as well. True Shot Branch comes through. Strawberry just gets wrecked. That's a lot of damage. There's a shockwave onto no one in particular now. Kulo wants to come forward a little bit here. Soul Strikes gets ulted by Poppy, so Poppy's got free reign at this stage. Zephyrix getting caught in the middle and not able to get any kills with that death mark. A lot of protection for Youngie. That shield definitely very, very important. Sora didn't really have much time to do too much work, but he saw Soul Strikes leaving the fight. So diplomatic immunity right on top of the Jarvan.
Yeah, I don't think there's much of an answer that CCG had towards that teamfight right there. It was very clever of them to know that they couldn't fight at the Dragon, so they tried to push the mid lane. They got the top lane turret, so there was a trade, but now they're going to go to Dragon. The trade's going to be heavily in the favour of Sea Salt and Vinegar. I mean, the teamfight, there's not much you can do against the Rengar Orianna initiation. The speed boost on top of his ult, giving vision of where they are at all times. I mean, Orianna missed the ult completely, like with the ult, and they still won that fight convincingly.
Pushing power now in favour of Sea Salt and Vinegar. They can look to work on a few more of those objectives. There's one tower apiece here, so going to hand it to CCG Devine in that regard. They are holding on. Shockwave is still on cooldown right now for Youngie, so you can see CCG Devine a little bit more brazen as they try and come forward here. The majority, I think, of Sea Salt and Vinegar we're thinking about recalling at this stage, leaving 3 in that mid lane just to hold. And now obviously with Dragon off its plate as well, can I just say, gold is even, like dead even. So both these teams very, very evenly matched. It is 2 Dragons though over towards the guys on Sea Salt and Vinegar. And you've got to bear in mind that those stats have a distinct gold value. And at this point of the game, it's pretty important, especially having 2 of those ones. So virtually speaking, gold is definitely in favour of Sea Salt and Vinegar.
Yeah, and it's a scaling statistic too, like getting an 8% increase on your damage. It may not result to a lot of damage this early in the game, but the later the game goes and the more items that you have, the more that scales, and effectively the first Dragon is worth more gold the later into the game that you get. So having that early means that you're 1 closer to 5, and you've got a scaling statistic for free, as well as bonus gold for securing the Dragon.
It's all about statistics here right now. It's all about numbers, of course. And as I said, the scaling statistic makes a big difference here. So, I mean, and the longer that Sea Salt and Vinegar can keep CCG Devine from getting that first Dragon buff, it's just going to get harder and harder for them. So, if they take control and they maintain control, this game is undeniably going to be falling into their hands. But now a little bit of a lull as teams just position themselves around the map here. You can see the bad game will actually just tore shreds off Sora in that little 1v1 there as well. And it's a little bit of the fragility of a Poppy that's not building tank there. That happens. But obviously, there's a heck of a lot of defensive capability and diplomatic immunity if it's used on the correct target. So that is going to be important for Sora at this stage to make sure that in those fights, he gets it on the correct target.
Yeah, and that's why Poppy is able to build the way that she is, because if you can get that diplomatic immunity on a target that's not going to do damage to you or crowd control on top of you, you don't actually need the defensive stats because you actually cannot take damage. It's perfect by design. And I mean, it allows her to build probably after the Trinity Force may well be a Bloodthirster or a Gunblade. Like it's so versatile depending on what you need. There's physical damage routes, there's magic damage routes. All of them, you're still going to be tank because of your ult. So Poppy's such an awesome champion for that.
Yeah, mind you that also gets an extra 20% damage to the target she marks with diplomatic immunity. So if she does want to go after a specific champion, and regardless of the damage that they can do, she can get away with that. You can see though she's only used it once, so Sora has not used it in lane. He's never let her get to the point where he'd have to be rolling the dice up against bad game lols Maokai. It's just never been a factor. He's a long way from his tower though, so it might be an issue here. Of course, a little bit of speed boost from Phage going to be helping out as well. Kulo and Sarah happy to trade blows at length here. You can see it's sort of drawn down Namja towards that dragon a little bit. He's slowly inching his way along, just clearing. Just going to be working on that Scuttle Crab as well. It's gold, it's vision, and of course the bonus of the movement speed. It's very, very handy. Now Sora might have to fight here. Keeps backing away, gets pushed little by little back towards his own inner turret here. So giving up a lot of ground, but definitely making bad game law a potential gank target as well, if Namja was inclined that way.
Yeah, it does feel like a bit of an uphill battle for the Poppy right now, just consistently getting poked out by the raw damage that a Maokai puts out. But, I mean, at the same time, you've got everything going on in other lanes. It feels like we're back to laning phase. Like, everyone's just had these fights, they've grouped, they've done these objectives, and all of a sudden we're back to just laning again, back to level 1. Going through the basic mechanics all over again.
It feels like no one wants to really take any big risks now with Dragon off the table. Because these Soul Strikes actually look like he was in position to gank there. True Shot Barrage coming out, knock up towards Sarah G. Soul Strikes backing away. Teal's going to get the flat of Soul Strikes there. And Namja is invisible. He's going to come straight on towards Kilo. Does get the bowler, but it wasn't a empowered one though. He did get that one onto Strawberry though. There's a teleport into the backline as well. Bad game log gets there. Sora is there in time as well. Who's he going to ult though? We can see that Kula is still so healthy right now, doing a lot of damage. The speed boost was good, and the Monsoon, great for a bit of disengage and a kill. Obviously, best Namja was the one who dropped down there. Zephyrix maybe looking for a bit of a disengage, re-engage sort of kill here as he does finally make his way down towards the bot lane as well. But Sora just going to brazenly stand in the middle of that one. No ult from Sora as well, not really any time. You can see there was an immense speed boost coming away, I think, from Kulo, who did use his Blade of the Ruin King just to escape.
Yeah, I mean, Poppy's got that Trinity Force now, so he's definitely going to look to try and force some things as they just did. But the curse of Rengar, right? The champion that has to initiate, but is so squishy that it could potentially die at any situation. It's just changed that fight completely from a good initiation to being instantly dead, and Vayne getting 3 hits. It's very risky being Rengar, I suppose. And Maokai, I believe, teleported in behind and secured that kill as Vayne condemned Rengar away with the 3rd proc of True Bolt. So very unlucky on his part actually, but well done by Bad Game Lol and Co.
I mean, the big question is how much really is Battle Royale going to help you if you're a Rengar or Namja in this case, jumping into a team fight without Command Protect on you as well, without the disruption of Shockwave once they get used by Orianna. It's tough. Like, it almost requires Youngie to be there for those fights to allow Namja to be effective now. There's a split push coming out from Zephyrix. He does pick up that bottom outer turret there as well, making it 2 turrets to 1 in favour of CCG Devine. And you can see that, you know, for all the bluff and blunder around the map, see Salt and Vinegar actually falling a little bit behind here now. We can see Sora getting a bit of protection here, by Orianna going to get knocked into that tower. A little bit of damage there, insult to injury with the sapling on top of the Iron Ambassador's head here. Teals is looking for a pick as well. Dragon is up in 8 seconds. Both teams fully aware of this one now. It's going to be the 3rd Dragon, you know, if the guys from Sea Salt and Vinegar can pick it up here. So definitely something that Crowd Control Gaming Devine want to hold on to. I don't really think a recall would be wise at this time for Soul Strikes, but he is low on health. It's going to make a Dragon steal or even put himself in the backline of the opposition team that much riskier now. Dragon is up and they're going to start working away on that one. You can see the entirety of CCG Devine. Kulo sitting on the ward here as well. Teals wants a hook, hits on a bad game, well, not the one they wanted, but at least they can pull that front line in a predictable direction for the moment. So no Twisted Advance coming out here. There's Namja though, going to go in. Does he get the shockwave down? I don't think so now. A lot of damage. Kulo in the back line as well. The ult went onto Strawberry, so you can see Poppy able to do a lot of damage here towards Zephyrix. They're just ignoring her at this stage. Youngie is going to get jumped on. Surely there's the death mark going down. Saved by Zephyrix to the last minute. And Bad Game Goal just going to continue on towards Sarah G now as well. It's not looking good at all. There goes Sora. Finally drops down. The double comes out for Zephyrix. No one died on the side of CCG Devine, and they'll have that Dragon. Thank you very much.
I feel like so much just went completely and utterly wrong there for Sea Salt and Vinegar. The Orianna firstly missed her ult. I think Rengar just went out of range for it, or she used the Command Protect on someone and then ran out of range. Completely with the ult, it went on top of herself, which indicates that the range was run out, and then she zone used. Now, I think she zone used Darwin, but that enables Zed to just freely ult her afterwards. So the second that zone is ended, Zed got a free ult off on the Orianna, and that's goodbye Orianna. Now that was just one of many things that I feel like were small mistakes in that fight. Rengar initiating with half health, didn't have his full stacks of like the E up, there wasn't going to be a stun, and just instantly died. Like, there's such small decision making errors and small mechanical errors that snowballed into a 0 for 5 trade and a Dragon.
But, you know, I do want to give a little bit of limelight to Strawberry in that fight. The reason why Orianna missed the ult was because Rengar jumped and then was knocked in additional long distance by Monsoon. So he would have had the ult down quite easily if Rengar had managed to jump on his intended target, but Strawberry knocked him aside. He went sideways in towards that tri-brush with the Orianna ball on him, so everything just went wrong there. I don't think Seasalt and Vinegar actually accounted for that occurring at all. So huge play for that. Yeah, it's pressing R. I mean, I don't know if that was really what the intent was there at all, but it worked out very, very well for CCG Devine. The Rengar initiation, it is their only initiation, can I just say. If that goes wrong, it's all going to go downhill, and there's always going to be that Monsoon up in those fights, Rusty. There's always going to be, an out. There's always going to be an answer to Rengar jumping in on top of CCG Devine.
Yeah, that's correct. And there's always going to be people jumping onto the Orianna, which means, like, not only does the Rengar have to ult the ideal target and not have the Janna knock him away or too far away so that it gets rid of the ball, but Youngie has to be in a position where he doesn't get jumped on instantly and have to zone use from the Z damage, but also be able to stay active long enough to be able to use his ult before needing to use the zone use. So there's a lot of small positioning things that need to be taken into account here. You see, Nam just building tanker now. He's got his damage item. He's going to start building that Giant's Belt, which will probably go into armor as they start to initiate here.
Okay, looks like it's going to be a little bit of a mess here indeed. They're very messy in the mid lane. Kulo, the one to get started on there, but he's still going to be able to survive it. And then Namja just gets jumped on there. Deathmark doing a lot of work. Can he survive? No, Deathmark will proc there. Youngie forced to use Zhonya's again. It's never a good situation when he has to use Zhonya's while surrounded by like 3 teammates. Kulo almost died, but huge momentum shift in favor of CCG Devine right now. You know what? We were just talking before in our last game about margin of error and how much leeway you have and how much room for mistakes you have. Well, here it is again. There is a lot of leeway, for a team like CCG Devines, and they can deal with that engage because of things like Monsoon. And as we said, this points towards a good drafting phase. When you have a lot of wiggle room, when you have room to make errors or for things not to go perfectly for you and get away with it, that's good. The thing is, Sea Salt and Vinegar, the Rengar Orianna has to work. If it doesn't work, they're screwed.
That's correct. And I mean, like, the Rengar is one of those champions though where he's so volatile that it could work or it couldn't work based on how the jungling and ganking phase goes. And it wasn't good or bad for him, but ever since they started trying to fight, it's just, I guess it's unfortunate. Everything's just been going so unlucky and poorly in their favor. I remember he ganked bottom and he threw out his bowler strike and it hit a minion as he dashed. And it was just, everything's just going so unluckily against them that, like, for the next, like, the momentum has shifted. It's another thing that I touched on earlier. It's like, it feels like CCG Devine are in control just completely, and the way that Sea Salt and Vinegar are now playing is reacting. They're not making decisions anymore. Like, they've stopped the Rengar initiations, and that's what they're going to need to do if they want to win this game. They're going to have to hit that combo.
Okay, well, there's too much that kind of messes that up. It's a condemn. It could be a flag and drag from Jarvan. It could be a twisted. It could be anything that could just set Rengar off, spinning off in the wrong direction here. So, you've really got to think very, very carefully about your next fight. If you are Sea Salt and Vinegar, very, very carefully. Sarah G's obviously hit that blue build point now, so able to do a little bit more poking and kiting, and that's good. But still, not a lot of damage. I mean, it's a Manamune, and it's a Iceborne Corner. That's not a lot of damage there, man.
Well, at least it's the Muramana now. There's something to take from that. He does have that spike in damage where he can activate that and do a phenomenal amount of damage constantly. But, I mean, tank items, not that great for an AD carry.
Oh, wow. Thresh flashing straight into a Howling Gale. Their Soul Strike's getting focused here. That's not really the target they need to be looking at. Great shockwave for the Youngie, though. Does get Kulo, but now we can see Zephyrix coming straight on with the ult. Won't be enough, though. Sarah G will be able to stand. And now, here is Sora using the ult just as was intended. Bad game, Lol. The only person that could really do any damage to him there. That was a very quick 3-for-1 fight. Sora flashing forward, then standing still just to dodge that Arcane Smash. Again, so much disengage coming out here from the rest of CCG Devine, but a good result. 3-for-1 fight is what Sea Salt and Vinegar needed. And you know what? It's okay to not ult on Rengar. It's okay for Youngie just to ult on his own. If he's in position to do it, like in that fight, that's fine. So a little bit of contingency there for them, a little bit more leeway, but still, they've definitely got to hang on here. Dragons are 40 seconds away. It's going to be plenty of time for CCG Devine to spawn properly. Scatter Crab going to be worked on here, though, and it's all going to be... I mean, this game, the ball is well and truly in the court of Sea Salt and Vinegar.
Yeah, that's right. They're always going to be in this game almost based off team comp alone. The Poppy did so much work in that last fight. The Orianna ult, it connected. Rengar didn't even need to be shielded for it to connect, as you said. I mean, it's just, they're so... like, I hate the Ezreal build personally, but it does so much damage and so consistent, such low cooldowns on all of his spells. It's really annoying to verse, and it's unkillable. So, like, he's got 0 deaths right now. I highly doubt he'll get another death unless he gets caught. Just based off that alone. And then they've got the Poppy is going to be in the back line, ulting someone that's not going to damage him. Rengar's going to be initiating, so all the focus isn't even on the Ezreal, who, once he starts scaling with items, which he has now, he's got that last Whisper, going to be a really big threat, and underrated.
Alright, well let's see, Dragon's up and the dance does begin. A bit of damage there on towards Zephyr. Can I just say, Sarah G, the man wielding the magic glove, and now here's the speed up as well. It's going to be a true shot right to the majority of CCG Devine. Dragon went over towards them, but now here's the fight. We can see Nabja gets caught up in the backline. Shockwave onto a couple of people. I think it wasn't really enough. Youngie now going very low, having to back right away from this one. Flash has been forced, and it's been a 2-for-1 so far in favour of CCG Devine. You can see Youngie got away, and that's always a good sign. Zephyrix went quite low as well. Will Sarah G be able to clean up here at all? It's a full health Ezreal. Sarah G maybe stayed too far back, maybe too much of a survivalist in that fight. Maybe not enough damage dealt. Nonetheless, 2-for-1.
Yeah, good rotation here actually by CCG Devine to push this mid tower. They pushed people away, they knew enough people were low and there was no threat for them to actually be contested for that turret. They're going to look to take jungle now. There's the free red buff to take. Top tower potentially, but I feel like that would be too much of a stretch. They're just going to look to secure control. They took the dragon, so actually going to the top side of the jungle is a really smart move. There's no reason to be near that dragon anymore. And the next rotation could well be the top lane, could be mid lane, could be Baron. And going where they went, knowing that there's going to be no one to contest that, free vision, free control. And I don't think that Sea Salt and Vinegar would even assume that that vision was there, besides knowing that the red was taken.
Step by step, we see CCG Devine starting to mount what surely will be an insurmountable lead up against the Sea Salt and Vinegar crew here. That's the second dragon, so it's 2 dragons apiece. For those of you who want to keep score at home, and it is 4 towers to 1, and that's maybe the biggest defining factor here in the disparity of gold between these two teams. And now, I mean, we can't even talk about the effective gold given by Dragon buffs because both teams have 2. So it's definitely a lead here at the moment to CCD Devine. The game is definitely swung in momentum. And I've got to say, all of the games we've seen tonight have been very, very good like this. You know, they've been close. I haven't seen any stomps at all. Now, this game, as it goes to 31 minutes and 30 seconds, both these teams out at hammer and tongs. And you know, even now it's hard to sort of predict who's going to be a winner here. You know, Sarah G, let's see that who is will start to, get big. It's the last Whisper has been picked up there as well. So extra damage, more damage, less problems is what they often say now. And you can see he's going to try and make a nuisance of himself in this case. Those true shot barrage, if he can land those, on clumped up groups of people from CCG Devine are going to be absolutely devastating. And, sometimes... sometimes it can kind of work against Sarah G if he's focusing too much on just trying to true shot barrage people instead of being amongst the fight and doing damage. I mean, Sarah G did the true shot barrage on the dragon before, tried to do a bit of damage, and then straight away was forced away. Now, Sora and Zephyrix going head to head here as well. Zephyrix does have the damage. This is the split pushing situation we talked about before the game, Rusty, and I think it's safe to say, we had to ask the question, can Sora get to the point where he can, split push and 1v1 anyone on CCG Devine? The answer is no.
I definitely think the answer is no. It's an 8-4 Z. He's got that last Whisper Blade, the Wrong King, and Ghost Blade active. It's an extremely hard Z to fight with. Once a Z gets a last Whisper, generally they want to split. And, I mean, the Poppy's just not big enough to be able to stop that right now. And I don't think he will be for a while.
Oh, wow. Sarah G going to go low, going to go down a bad game. No, they tried to 2v1 him, and the Maokai still got ahead. That's a big freaking Maokai. He's got the Frozen Heart as well. Of course, there's that Spirit Visage. He can kill Teals here as well if he wanted to. Teals will just... No, the Krugs, will they?
Oh.
No. Almost. Wait, will he let him attack him in the bush? No. So Teals is somehow going to get away. But I'll tell you what, this is what I mean. Ezreal's not doing a lot of damage. They were forced to use a heal in that situation as well, I think. Yeah, forced to use heal. I mean, they still could kill the Maokai. That's not a good sign at all.
Yeah, and I mean, Zed was solo killing the Poppy, being a threat in the bot lane, and at the same time you've got the other 3 members of CCG being a threat in the top lane, pushing turrets, pushing towers. Just all over the board right now, just everywhere there's just these threats, and it's really hard for Sea Salt and Vinegar to react as they're freely taking a Baron right now, completely uncontested. And that's only going to aid in their pushing power right now. The Zed being able to 1v1 a Poppy, massive for winning this game. I don't see a way for them to be able to have someone split push against the Zed, at all. They're going to have to send 2 people. And that's where you know that they're going to start slowly losing this game unless they start to make that perfect pick team fight with a Thresh or whatnot.
Oh god, as I say that, this is the split push going down there. Zephyrix goes straight towards Sora. A lot of damage being dealt. Ooh, burst from Sora though, but the death mark will still activate there. We can see Zephyrix. No! Flashed away from that one. I thought Namja had him completely, and Namja forced a chase down here. He's going to be able to jump on. Oh, very, very close. True shot barrage coming down just just to make sure. But that was very, very dicey. And that's what happens when you got a split pusher. Drew 3 members to that lane. Let the rest of Zephyrix's team wreak havoc over the rest of the map. You can see now Kulo, his top lane, shoving that in. 2 in the mid lane as well. Pushing, pushing, and pushing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They're going to use that as a way to push other lanes. But I feel like the Zed went in a tiny bit too early. The rest of the team weren't in a position to be able to complement what Zed was doing. He brought a lot of people there, he traded, but it was too early. They're still managing to make something from it though, due to the sheer power of their team right now. And that
this is Baron at work right here. And you know what, actually, an empowered siege minion, like an empowered cannon with the Baron buff, actually can, hit a tower while being outside of its range. So if you just stand yourself, next to that cannon, it can continue attacking the tower. And the enemy team, in that case, what we saw earlier on, didn't really want to come forward to try and kill that. You can almost bait the enemy team with that Baroned up cannon by just standing next to it, because they aren't close enough to kill the cannon, but the cannon can attack their tower. So it can be a real pain in the rear by doing that, and you can sort of force some movements from the enemy team. Just a side note there, but you could see how much range they had. He was sitting outside of the base's stairs, just hitting that inner tower.
Yeah, and to slightly expand on that point just a tiny bit, remember that at 35 minutes, every single wave is a cannon wave. So if you have that Baron buff and you continue to do an extended siege, if you protect a cannon, you may have 2 hitting the turret now, and that's double the amount of damage that they're doing from outside of a range that can be contested.
Massively important point there as well. Every wave being a cannon, so look out for that and see how Baron is used. Well, Dragon's going to be taken away, and now you can see control has finally slipped out of Seasalt and Vinegar's hands as well. It's not good for now. The movement speed buff, of course, coming on with that third dragon, it's just going to be helping as well. You can just continue to accelerate those minion waves in. I mean, we saw a team in this situation last time. Their support bought a Zeke's Herald just to help finish the game, just to push with that Baron buff. It's not too long now from timing out. In fact, it may have just done so. So, no, it's still on some members. So, yeah, pretty close to being done. But they definitely got good use of it. They got that top inhibitor turret down, and now look at that. They have a bit of freedom now to make their moves around the map. Namja is trying to take that tower down here. He won't probably get it now. It's going to be engagement from Soul Strikes as well. Could probably fight this Rengar a bit as well. Just jumps out the pit. He wants the tower. Sorry, he knows he will drop regardless, I think. So he's just going to have to be happy enough with having picked up that tower. Elsewhere on the map, though, you could see a bit of grouping towards mid as well by the majority of Seasalt and Vinegar. Namja won't die right now. He's holding on very, very well. Soul Strikes isn't doing a lot of damage, though. We'll say that much, but that's a dead Rengar, finally. Stolen away by Strawberry. KS, report Janna. And now I think they'll try and continue to push that top lane in as well. You can see Zephyrix doing exactly what he's supposed to do, was a split pushing Zed, getting himself now over towards mid to start that one rolling in.
And you can see that there's 4 people from Seasalt and Vinegar hanging around that area trying to catch the Zed before it's a good time to actually defend the top lane. You've got about, 20-second period between when that Rengar died to when they're actually going to be in a position to push. So they all tried to react. They tried to pick the Zed before this happened. And now that Zed's going to go bottom, the other 4 are going to stay top. They're going to siege the open inhib. I don't know what Seasalt and Vinegar are going to do to react in this situation besides just straight up try to initiate and make the best out of a bad situation by killing the Vayne.
Well, they kind of got to fight, at some point. This is where things start to get away from him, especially when you got that Zed split pushing in that bottom lane as well. And they're going to be aware of his presence momentarily now. And this is crunch time here. They've sent Namja to deal with here, but I don't really know for how long that is going to really work out. And again, that's the engaged potential now being completely and utterly mitigated for Seasalt and Vinegar. Now here we go. Sora goes in, ults on towards Bad Game Lol. So has a bit of freedom here, but he's caught trying to deal with Soul Strike. So the turret goes down. And Bad Game Lol still haven't been ulted by the Poppy there. Time has run out now for her. So she's got to get jumped on surely soon. Youngie caught amongst Bad Game Lol. Bad Game Lol doing a great job in the backline there, but Kulo is going to get shockwave. He will drop. Yes, now he'll only very barely go down. And Sora will pick that kill up now. It was a 1-for-none trade. A lot of people going very, very low. But ultimately, as you said, the Vayne did fall. But will that be enough to defend this inhibitor? I don't think so. Not with Zed pushing straight towards the Nexus as well. Ah, the death mark on Sarah G, that's devastating. Just off screen, sort of messing with him right there. So that was a bottom inhibitor down as well. So it was a prolonged fight, and they're the kind of fights that Seasalt and Vinegar can't afford to have at this stage. Not when they're basically getting pushed from 2 angles.
Yeah, spot on. I mean, that Vayne had a Poppy jumping on her, had the Rengar jumping on her. Just lived for so long with the Janna support. Like, there was so many summoner spells being used just to save the Vayne, and like that was such a prolonged, overextended fight that should not have lasted that long. The Orianna ult had to hit 1 person just to ensure that the Vayne died, and that whole time, like, they still got the inhibitor, and Zed still got the bottom inhibitor and a kill, and most of the damage on one of the Nexus turrets. Like, it's everything that they're doing right now Sea Salt and Vinegar, that is just being answered and beaten by what CCG Devine are doing. Like they've got an answer to everything, and Sea Salt and Vinegar do not.
Okay, well, there's the banner of command. Sorry, that's what I was thinking, not Zeke's Herald. Banner of command now has been picked up. And again, we're thinking about pushing waves in here. That's kind of the plan. Surely right now for Strawberry wants to really start shoving them in. And can I just say, it's going to be a huge boon there to the team. As Elixir of Ruin has been picked up by Strawberry there as well, by the way. So some of those now starting to be picked up for the side of CCG Devine. They've got the money to burn at this stage. So Baron, yeah, definitely. They just want to end the game right now, and they know Banner of Command plus, Super Minions plus Baron is just surely going to be enough for them to push in and overwhelm. They're ahead by like 10k gold as well, mind you. So that's a big bonus, especially considering Dragons are approximately even. So you can't even look to that as a saving grace for Sea Salt and Vinegar.
Well, Baron, 25 seconds. So they'll probably look to secure the free Baron. It's a safe thing to do, essentially. They're so far ahead that contesting it would be a risk from Sea Salt and Vinegar's part. They've got 2 inhibs down, and the bottom inhib being down is the biggest inhibitor towards taking the Baron, as is the top inhibitor towards a Dragon, just because it's so far away. And if you see someone bottom defending that wave, you can just take the Baron freely. And like as you see right now, they're preparing for it. It's live right now. It's ready to go. They're going to hit this up.
And look, and can I just touch on the Elixir of Ruin as well? I didn't really say why it was picked up, but of course now Janna has extra pushing power in herself and obviously empowers nearby minions. So that on top of the Banner of Command, on top of the Baron buff, they are not taking any chances with this one at all. And you can see in a bad game log, knows that Namja is in the vicinity. He's going to jump into the pit. Might be a little bit too little, too late. He's going to get stunned as well. Kulo will do a heck of a lot of damage on towards him as well now. Might be a flashback into the pit for the steal. At this stage, you can see a CCD Devine aren't paying too much attention now to Namja. Namja wants to come in, but no, won't be able to pick it up. It's a lot of damage from the one auto attack. Kulo chases down the big Tiger Man and picks that one up. Now, Baron is on this team, and what more do you really need? Look at how big that minion is with 2,100 health on that cannon minion. And that's all, of course, because of the Baron. And also the Elixir of Ruin is empowering, giving extra movement speed and damage to towers. So the waves push quicker and they're bigger. And wow, that's actually like a considerable amount of damage to towers. So much that these minions are able to do right now. And Janna, all she needs to do is stand here and just direct it. That is disgusting. Of course, now Janna promoted that minion as well, mind you. That's why he's so big. But that's not cool at all. And they can just shove in. Really can just take the game from here. And again, Zephrix just split pushing from the backside. That's all he has to do. Sarah Gia trying to use that true shot barrage now. A little bit of damage going down. Deathmark will proc, but it won't really be enough now. And we can see now Teal's trying to back away yet again as well. Sora super low now. Teal's caught amongst it. But look at it just taking down this Nexus so easily. Of course, there's so many tools available to CCG Devine just to clean this game up right now. And that will be it, ladies and gentlemen. Again, Sea Salt and Vinegar capitulate in the losers bracket, dropping out of our open tournament. Huge performance there from CCG Devine, can I just say. And a lot of people have said like the Ghost is the better team out of those two, but if you're Crowd Control Gaming's manager right now, you're pretty chuffed with yourself because you've got 2 very strong squads there. And that was a huge performance. Individually, you've got to give it over to Zephrix. He got that split push down to a T. And it's a shame to see that Poppy not really hit her straps, but we said this is what might have happened. And that Maokai was huge from bad game log.
Yeah, that Maokai actually was winning lane pretty much consistently throughout the entire laning phase that they were in, and they were in and out of it all the time, but he was still coming back and being able to beat that Poppy in lane. And maybe it's because the Poppy builds offensive stats, but I still don't feel like the Poppy had an impact that the Maokai did. The Zed was able to split push and 1v1 the Poppy, bring 2-3 people down, sometimes 4 people's attention, and then the rest of the team can do what they want, and vice versa. It's like, I don't know, I'd call it out drafted, I suppose, in and out.
Well, I mean, yeah, we've kind of developed our heuristic for determining who kind of outdrafted who over the course of the night, but there you go. I think, it was like the drafting was really important. The Poppy was not impactful. Sorry, it just didn't work out. But that's the way the cookie crumbles, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us up in Uber here with Rusty BB with some massive Oceanic open ladder action here. Obviously, our CG are providing this one. Tomorrow night we'll be back as well with the second half of this tournament. Regrettably, I'm not going to be here. I'm not home till a little bit later on, sadly. That's that RL job thing as well. But hopefully Jordan Elfish, Guy Mays will be joined by a special guest tomorrow to bring you guys some of the action. We will confirm later on, so we don't know for sure, but definitely be watching us on Twitter and the like as well. You will know when we go live. If you follow this channel as well, you can subscribe like me and get a cute little Team Down TV logo, and also you get the TDTV Sandman face logo, which is pretty OP as well. Some team logos as well to use in chat, so little bonuses there for you guys, and of course the warm fuzzy feeling you get from supporting obviously some local Oceanic esports. Rusty, thank you very much for joining me, mate. You got any last words you'd like to rattle off before we close it up tonight?
Oh, I suppose I'll keep it the same as last week. And a quick shout out to Asus and my team Legacy, and maybe a little bit of a shout out to Expired. Bad luck in the tournament.
Right, and a bit of shout out to Juves, Rip and Pepperoni. We are done here. Thank you guys for joining us. It's been Uber here with Rusty VB, of course, Cyanide, the man, all night been doing our camera work. So big shouts to him. Lots of love to you guys. We'll hopefully be back tomorrow night. We'll confirm soon. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you on the Rift.